just like to welcome you to the school virtually. So
thanks a million for having me.
I'll pass you on to Ellie and Lucy.
Brilliant.
As a child, were you always interested in sport?
Yeah, hugely. My mum and dad were mad into sport. They took us everywhere. We went to loads of games. We were constantly like that family with the big 7-seater car where everyone was getting thrown into. There was always people with us, and it was always something I wanted to do. So playing sport was definitely the start of it, and then working in sport to me was like a total dream. It was kind of all I ever wanted to do.
What was your life like growing up in Australia and Ballinahasig?
Well, Australia was amazing, like such a brilliant experience because they just love sport there and they love the outdoors. We were just constantly outside. Our family were always just like, I suppose we were that family where like there was something on every day. We were swimming or we were, playing netball or football or whatever it was. And it was just a really nice upbringing. And then when we came back to Ireland, we were like the weird Australian kids with the really funny accent and trying to make friends. And like, yourselves, when somebody different comes to your school, it's kind of challenging to fit in. And actually sport was what really helped us to fit in. I started playing camogie. I'd never played it before. I was 10 when I took it up. And I think once I kind of found my feet and started making friends from playing sport, that's definitely what helped with the adjustment. But I loved it.
Who is your childhood hero and did they have an impact on choosing your career?
Sonia O'Sullivan was my absolute idol. I loved her. And even when I met her much later in life, when I started my career, I total fangirled her. Like, it was really funny. Like, I was running over and I was like, oh my God, I love you. And she was like, okay, calm down. Like, you have your own job, you're a grown up. But it's just amazing that somebody like that can have such an impact on my life. And she still impacts a lot of young girls who are like your age. When you read about her and you see that an Irish person has done something like that, she has totally transcended the generations. Like, my mom loved her and I loved her. And I really liked that an Irish girl could go on the world stage and do that. And then I guess that's what made we want to be really close to the action, because when you see Irish people doing and having that kind of success, you really want to be part of it in whatever way you can. God, I just had so many opportunities and most of them were put my way because my mom and dad made sure that we had those opportunities. We didn't have a lot of money. We weren't loaded. We weren't, I suppose we didn't really have everything that we wanted, but we had everything that we needed. And I think that is probably the most important thing, that sometimes you can look at other people's lives and think that they have it all and, oh, isn't that wonderful? But actually in our house, we were just very happy, and anytime we asked mom and dad, could we try something, they found a way to do it. Like, my sister is a pilot and, obviously that's not a cheap career to go and do, but my mom and dad just found a way because they knew that she really, really wanted to do that. And I think that's what opportunity is. It's about people helping you to get what you really want. And for me, that was the most important thing, that my mom and dad were just so brilliant at being like, okay, my brother was about to become a professional motorbike rider when he died in an accident. And I obviously do a job that's not most people do. And my sister is a pilot. And, I think my parents probably at some stage probably were saying, God, would one of you get a job that's a lot easier to manage? But actually them kind of pushing us to do the things that we really wanted to do made us pick really different careers. And I'm very grateful to them that they made us choose something like that was a bit different, because it's definitely given me a different perspective on life.
Did you ever aspire to have another job, or is sports presenting always what you wanted to do?
Yeah, no, this is all I wanted to do. I wouldn't be great in an office. Like, a Monday to Friday 9-to-5 job just wouldn't suit me. I think lots of people are built differently. If I was going to do something else, I'd probably work in the music industry. Like, I love music. I've always been really into it, did music for my living. And I think if I was going to choose another career, that's probably the route that I'd go down.
What was your earliest and best sporting memory?
Oh, good question. Okay, earliest one was my mum and dad took us to watch this rugby team in Australia where we lived, called the Canberra Raiders, and they won the national championship, and we got to go and watch them, and I loved that. And then, the way they play the combined rules where Ireland play Australia in like Gaelic football, Aussie rules, Jack O'Shea came to play in Australia in the 80s. Now, I'm way older than all of you guys, but you've probably seen him on TV. But he came to play, and I remember seeing him for the first time. And they started this song, the Ooh Ah Jack O'Shea, and it was the first time I'd ever heard it. And I was like, oh, this guy must be a superstar in Ireland. And it was the first time I'd ever seen him play. And I remember thinking, wow, this guy's amazing. And I always remembered it. And even when I met him, I was like, God, I saw you as a kid, and those things stay with you. And then the best ones, like I've had some magic moments, but probably Katie Taylor winning that gold medal in London in 2012 is something that's going to stay with me for a very long time, because it was just so raucous. There was so many Irish people there, and it was just one of those moments that we all watched and waited for her to become what she was, and just to be there and having followed her journey, and like I know her quite well, and just I suppose having been there from the start to see her become what she now is today was probably one of the most special things I've ever witnessed in my whole life.
My name's Paul. I suppose I'm interested in, have you ever had any sporting injuries, and if so, did it affect your career ahead, and what did it look like?
Oh, Paul, I had the worst injury. I actually broke my neck when I was 18. So I was playing in a basketball match, and it was an All-Ireland final. And when you get to the end of a game, like everyone's trying to stop the clock. And this girl, I put my head down to kind of go into the corner to hold onto the ball. And this girl ran at me full tilt, and it like fractured my C3 and C4 vertebrae, which they're quite high up the spine there, and another inch and I would have been paralyzed. Like I was paralyzed for a couple of hours and everything was fine, thank God. But like it was the scariest few hours of my life. And actually it really affected my sporting career, because you sort of lose the confidence of, you go into those moments and suddenly you kind of start fearing, like, it took me a good few years to get back after that properly, because you just don't have the same confidence in yourself. You don't have the same confidence in other people, your awareness of it all. So it definitely impacted me. And I think in a lot of ways, that's probably actually what made me think about the broadcasting route rather than the playing route, because it was the first time in my life that I thought, this thing is really fragile and you don't get to play forever. And I think that is actually the moment that made me think, how do I stay involved in sport for the rest of my life if I can no longer play? And then that's when I came to the decision that this was the best job for me.
How important do you think recovery is?
Oh, huge. Like, and to be honest, I think nowadays, like for you guys, when you're watching sport and you're seeing it, like there's so much more there than there was for me. Like, I think in my sporting career, like I didn't really have a sense of, we looked after ourselves, but only in the way that we thought looking after yourself and your diet was eating chicken and pasta and going out and playing a match and not really looking after yourself afterwards. Whereas actually now, when I see professional athletes and what they're doing, and it's all day, every day, it's phenomenal. And it's probably later in life, that is the one regret that I would have, that I didn't know about these things sooner, because I definitely would have got more. Like I still play basketball now, obviously nowhere near to the level that I used to play, but it's nice to still be able to play. But I do often think, God, wouldn't you love to have a crack at it now? Like I'm mates with a lot of professional sports people, and I'm like, Jesus, I would love your life now. If you gave it to me 15 years ago, I would have taken your hand off for it. But it's lovely to watch them do it. But I definitely would have loved to have given that a crack in my pomp.
So what made you retire and finish up early from playing sports?
Too many injuries. It's just, my body was broken by the time I was done. My knees were broken, my back. After I broke my neck, there's shavings keep coming off my back. So anytime I'd go for a scan, you could see pieces of the bone had been getting chipped away. And it was just too much scope getting done all the time on my back. My knees, my ankles, I had just so many problems. And a lot of that is down to the way we talk about recovery there, that I just probably didn't look after myself properly in my early years. So thankfully I managed to get back after I had my second baby. I managed to get back playing a bit of basketball. Now I just play Division 2 basketball in Dublin, and that is enough for me. I get enough kicks out of that now. I play golf and I get loads of competition out of playing golf. And I think once you're a competitor, you're probably always a competitor. You just want to be good at something, but that's definitely enough for me now.
What's your handicap in golf?
26. And I'll tell you, Paul, it needs to come down drastically in the next couple of years. That is going to be my goal for myself. Do you play?
A small bit, not a lot.
You've plenty of time for it anyway, in fairness to you now.
Match where you got the injury, did you end up winning that match?
Yeah, we
Or-
did. We did. Yeah. In fairness, there was only a point in it at that stage, and my whole team came into the hospital afterwards. And the poor girl who ran into me had to come into the hospital as well afterwards. She wasn't in a good place, but yep, we won, thankfully. So that's the good news.
What was your favorite Olympic moment, and what event would you choose if you were given the opportunity?
Oh, okay. I'm watching the Winter Olympics at the moment, and I tell you what, there's a load of those I would never do. Jesus, I'm watching them going down doing the downhill, and I'm there thinking, oh my God, you'd be taking your life in your hands every time. So definitely not Winter Olympics. If I was going to do the Olympics, we actually have this conversation at home all the time when the Olympics comes on, because you watch something and you're like, come here, I'd be deadly at that. Like, give me the archery or something or whatever, I'd be class at that. I actually love sprinting, but I was never fast. Like, I'm not fast at all, like really not built for speed. But when I watch it, I'm like, my God, I would love to have been a sprinter, because it's such a show. Like, you see them rock on and they get out and they're all like, woo, they're like living the dream. Then they get on the track, they're all having the chats, and then it's just go A to B as fast as you can. And like, I was there when Usain Bolt won the double in London and in Rio. And like, the stadium was just off the charts. Like, I've never seen anything like it. Like, the men's and women's 100 meters is the best sporting event you will ever go to, bar none, because it's so fast. And like, I talked about Katie Taylor, and I was there for Kelly Harrington when she won her medal this year. And like, I've been there for a lot of the big Irish moments, which have been amazing. But for a truly global spectacle, watching Usain Bolt, oh my God, he was mega. And I was actually right. So he used to have this thing that he never said no to an interview. So when you go to the mix zone, so like RTE are obviously the national broadcaster in Ireland, but on a global stage, we're like really small fish, because there's like NBC and ABC and all these huge American broadcasters. So he has to go and do all them first. But if you put in a request for him, he'll say yes. But you just have to wait. So I said to the guys, I was like, yeah, I'd love to talk to Usain Bolt, just 30 seconds. And they were like, okay, grand, or whatever. And I said, how long do you think I'm going to have to wait? And they were like, I don't know, it could be 2, 3. And I was like, minutes. And they were like, hours. And I was like, all right, okay. Sat down in the mix zone. 3.5 hours later, he came through, because he literally spoke to every single person on the way. It was unbelievable. It was worth the 30 seconds because he was a rock star, but it was a long, long wait. It kind of varies. So generally I do a 7-day fortnight, and they're 12-hour days. So we would kind of work 10 to 10 is kind of the way it works. So if I'm doing the news, if you're ever watching the 6 o'clock news, the thing is, the people who present it, they don't just present the news, they also write it, and we also edit everything that you see. So let's just say you're watching Premier League football game. The person who does that report, so it might have been Dave Kelly at the weekend, he'll actually edit, he'll lay down his voice and then he'll edit the whole thing. But if you're watching the newsreader reading it, we also edit the pictures just to match exactly, so that they say, and Mo Salah scored the winner. And just when you're seeing that, the ball goes into the back of the net. So there's a lot that goes into it in terms of just trying to get all that right. And obviously we write all the scripts. And then, like, let's say for the rugby at the weekend, I was doing the Ireland-Wales game in the Aviva. I was there at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we're not on air till 1, but like, you got to go there. We got to do checks. We got to make sure like everybody can hear each other. You got to get yourself ready, in terms of, we have a meeting, we discuss kind of what we want to chat about. And then there's loads of interviews and stuff like that to be done. And then you do the actual show. So it kind of really varies as to whether you're doing a match or whether you're doing the news or whatever, but they tend to be long days. But I probably work less days than, let's say my husband works Monday to Friday. He's in there, he's on calls like flat out Monday to Friday, all the time from kind of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I would never do that, but probably the volume of it in the day is a little bit different.
How did your journalism career begin, and what qualifications were needed, and where did you gain these qualifications?
So I went to Mary I, not too far out the road from you guys there in Limerick. And I did a media and communications with English degree, because my plan was that I would be an English teacher if the media didn't work out. So I was kind of hoping, I kind of wanted to be an English teacher. That's kind of what I wanted to do when I was in school. I was quite interested in that, but the media was kind of the dream. And I kind of thought, well, let's go for that. And then I know that I really like doing English as well. So hopefully I'll get one of the two of them. So that's why I decided to combine them both in a degree. And then once I got into kind of third year in Mary I, there was an off-campus placement in third year. And I went to CBS in America and did an internship in Mississippi. And to be honest, that was the difference for me, because the minute I started down doing that internship, I was like, well, this is it. Like you get a taste of it, and then you come home and you realize this is all I want to do. I got a job in Live 95, worked there for a year, and I was driving up on a Monday to do this little slot before Home and Away on a Monday, talking about the sporting weekend while I was still working in Live 95. And then eventually RTE offered me a job full time. Limerick is really, to me, what made me. Like, I loved being in Limerick. Like, I loved being in college there. I played basketball there an awful lot, but my college degree is really what set me up. And I have Mary I to thank for that, because it was just an amazing place for me. It really was.
Are there any things about your job that you dislike?
The weekends are tough. Like, I work every single weekend, like every weekend. I have a Saturday off in April, and I'm like, God, I can't wait for that, because it's just, I think, when you get into sport that, like, I'm sure a lot of you guys are really into sport, you watch it all weekend, but when it becomes your job, it's hard for it to also be your hobby, because then when you're watching it, you're kind of on as well. Like, I might go to a game on a Saturday, but I'm working on the Sunday, and I'll actually inevitably end up talking about the match on a Saturday. And then you realize you're actually working all the time. So for me, the switching off is actually the hardest part. That's why, like, I had a load of meetings this morning. That's why I was a little bit late. Again, really sorry about that. But it was just like the hangover from the weekend, because everybody's trying to catch up on, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? So I try to take Tuesdays off to just get a bit of downtime. But it's hard when you're off during the week and you want to go play golf with someone or something, and everybody else is off at the weekend. So that's definitely the hardest part. And I've got two small kids who have matches and whatever, their own stuff for the weekend they want you to be there for. So that's the trickiest part. But other than that, dream job, like absolute dream job. But that is definitely the hardest part.
What was the most embarrassing thing to happen to you on the TV or radio? Also, what was the funniest moment, if different from your most embarrassing?
Oh God, there's been loads, but I mean, definitely the most embarrassing was when I said shit on the radio. It was one of the worst moments of my life, so we record, when I do Sunday Sport on the radio on a Sunday, we pre-record the opening. And there was a guy who used to present with me called Con Murphy, and he had written it and whatever. And sometimes you might say something different to what somebody else, you might just speak a little bit differently. And so it was like, oh, hi, I'm Con Murphy, I'm Jacqui Hurley, blah, 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 blah. And then I started saying it, but like, he had written it and it didn't quite suit the way that I would say it. And I just went, oh shit, sorry, we'll do that again. And the sound operator forgot to take it off the cart. And it totally happens, but like, he just forgot to clear that part of the screen. And then we played it out and went live on the radio. And I'm literally sitting in the studio and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. Like, I was like, and I was only doing the show about 3 weeks. I was there going, they're definitely going to fire this. And I was only 25 or something at the time. It was really young. And I was like, here, they're going to be like this woman who's young, who's useless. And my boss just pulled me into the office and was just like, just remember that mic is always on. And I was like, okay, it was the most valuable lesson I ever learned. And that was definitely the most embarrassing. And then I've had a lot of funny moments where, like, even in the Olympics this year, I was obviously presenting it from Japan, but we were talking to a lot of the athletes' families live on air. And like, Kelly Harrington, so we were told like Kelly Harrington's family are going to join you, but we can't see them. Like, there's a delay of about 20 seconds. So I've been told we're going to be talking to Kelly's mom and dad and her brother. Now, she has a couple of brothers, and they said it's her brother, Christopher. So I'm there like, we're chatting to them, blah, 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 blah. And your brother, Christopher, is here. And then I can hear somebody kind of saying something, but I can't hear what it is. And then he starts talking, and then I see him walk in and I realize that's not Christopher, that's Joel. So in the middle of him talking, I'm like, oh geez. And then I realized, then I have to live on air go, geez, I'm really sorry, Joel, didn't see you there, whatever. But I was like, going, people at home are probably thinking, what in the name of God is going on? But it was hilarious for us, because we had situations where like people were bringing dogs in live on air. There was people who were like drinking, and it was just wild. Like, but it was just really funny because live TV reality, anything can happen, and you have to have the ability to just laugh it off, because if you're going to be sitting there and like have a post on you because you got somebody's name wrong or because something silly happened, it's not going to work. Whereas if you can just kind of roll with the punches and be like, here, listen, I'm really sorry about that, but wasn't that gas, you'll actually end up having a much better career out of it. So to me, I just laughed and texted them afterwards. I was like, here, listen, lads, really sorry about that. But we had a good laugh about it afterwards, for sure.
You've also coached teams during your career. Did you enjoy this?
Yeah, loved it. And actually, it's something that I would love to do again. I think being involved with kids really is kind of where you see, like I even coached with my son's under sevens group up in Kilmacud Crokes. That's our local club in Dublin now. And I just love being involved with them, just love watching them learn and seeing what it means to them. And to be honest, when they get to a level where they're playing again, like I've been involved with Irish teams and traveled abroad with them. If one of my kids was involved at that level when they're teenagers, I'd love to do that again. I just don't have the time to commit to it because of the weekend stuff. But God, it was one of the most fulfilling things I did.
It's a good answer, Jacqui. Would you recommend being a journalist to younger people, and what career options are available to us if we decide to explore this further?
Yeah, I would actually. And to be honest, I think it's really hard right now for you guys because the world is changing so rapidly, and it's like, how do I stay ahead? How do I evolve? But actually what it also has given you is the tools to be your own sort of content creator. Like, you know, I'm not on TikTok, but I'm sure all of you guys are. And like, I'm not really on Snapchat. I'm much more of the Instagram generation, but like, I watch these things and I'm just there. Wow. Like the stuff that you guys can do now, we weren't even like, I only got email when I was in secondary school, like, you know, so for you guys, the drastic change has been phenomenal. And that's what I would say. If you are interested in journalism, it's actually making the decision now that you can create your own content. So whether that's making reels on Instagram or if videos on TikTok or whatever it is, something that you can connect with people and have the ability to tell stories. If you have a way of doing that now, even if that's having your own YouTube channel, I would recommend doing that, because the best training ground is actually watching yourself and going, what do I do there? Is that a good thing? Do I do too much of that? And actually you can be so much better at being self-critical than somebody else doing it. So I would really recommend it as a career. I think it's brilliant. I think you'll get to meet some amazing people. I think you get to tell some fascinating stories, and you really get a front row seat to see how this country deals with things, whether it's politically or musically or in sport or whatever it is. It's an amazing career that gets you to ask lots of questions, and I like that. But definitely creating your own content and being in control of it yourself is really a fascinating tool.
What's the most treasured autograph you have?
Probably Katie Taylor's. I got a signed pair of gloves from her after she won the gold medal in London, and they sit in my house, and they're probably if my house was ever robbed, I know this is a mad thing to say, but they'd probably be the most prized possession. They'd be the one thing that I'd want them back, because they mean a lot to us, to my husband Shane as well. I think for both of us to have them is incredibly special because of who Katie is and what she's done since then.
What's the one autograph you wanted to get but never did?
Usain Bolt. Should have asked him for a picture as well. Just wasn't really, you know, some of those moments you think it's not appropriate and then you don't do it, and then you realize, sure, what would it have mattered to him? I should have done it. And that's a regret for sure. So definitely, if you ever pass a superstar, just ask them, because even if they say no, at least you asked.
What's your favorite sporting documentary?
Probably doesn't count as a documentary, but Remember the Titans is probably my favorite sports. Like, it's obviously loosely based on a true story. It's probably my favorite sports movie, I think, of all time. There's a lot of really good documentaries, like Icarus, I loved in the last couple of years. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. A couple of the Lance Armstrong ones have been really good. But I think as a sports film that just really delivers, Remember the Titans is probably the one for me.
What's your favorite sports commentator as a child, and who is it now?
Ooh, probably Micheál Hurtig. When I was growing up, just loved him, got the opportunity to work with him, just saw how he did it. He was just spectacular. His ability to just say what was happening in the most lyrical way and just really paint the picture was just fantastic. Loved him. Probably now, I think Darragh Maloney is probably one of the best in the world, actually. And it just happens that he works for RTE, but I just think he's so skilled. He has such levels of where to go. You know, it's never too low, it's never too high. He's on pitch all the time. And I think Darragh Maloney is absolutely brilliant.
Your favorite sports movie?
I loved A League of Their Own, the baseball film. Loved that as well. That's probably up there too, but Remember the Titans, I would say, is probably, number one.
In your books, Girls Play Too, you said there is something for everyone. In your opinion, is there too much coverage of team sports in the media?
Yeah, that's a big problem. And to be honest, like, it's something that we're really trying to be cognizant of in the next couple of years, because I do think that we need to be able to show particularly young girls that just because you don't play team sports doesn't mean you're not sporty. Like, there's loads of things out there for girls. We just need to find a way to show them that if you want to be a surfer or a dancer or yoga or whatever it is, that's brilliant too. So yeah, I totally agree. I think there's way too much of that, but that's something that we are definitely trying to change.
Do you have a favorite golf course?
Well, I'm a member in Dunleary, and I have to say I love that. It's a really amazing course. It's got 3 different nines, loads of different challenges, and I love that here. There's one down in Cork called the Old Head of Kinsale, and that is absolutely one of the best golf courses in the world. Like, it is just amazing views, and love it. Watched Pebble Beach at the weekend, and I thought if I could play somewhere in America, that'd be the one. Looks class. So it's on my bucket list of places to go to. All right, okay. I guess when I was getting into it, I wasn't really thinking about it from a girl's point of view. I was just thinking about what I wanted to do. It's funny, like, even when I became the first female presenter of Sunday Sport, I didn't know that until a journalist told me. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, God, I hadn't really thought about that. And it's funny, you never are striving to be the first, but then when you are the first, you realize how important it is. It's only since then that I've actually recognized that I have a role to play in helping other girls to do that. And I suppose that was kind of part with the books, that I really wanted to do something so that young girls could feel that there's a pathway for them to follow as well. So I take it really seriously now. It means an awful lot to me, but it's probably much later in life I've realized that. I definitely didn't get a sense of that when I was younger, that I was inspiring people or anything like that at all. I just saw a job that I really wanted to do. There probably wasn't loads of women doing it, but there were a few. You know, there was Hazel Irvine was doing it, and Claire Balding and Gabby Logan. And I kind of thought, yeah, I'd quite like to do that. But now I realize, particularly when I talk to young girls, that they look at me and Yvonne and Joanne Cantwell and Claire McNamara, and they realize that they can do that too. And that's a brilliant thing. Oh, this is a question that we have all the time with young girls in particular. I mean, look, what I would say is that there is something for everybody. You just need to find it. Like, I found with a lot of my friends, the reason they gave up sport is because they didn't like team sport. But actually, a lot of those people now, they go to the gym all the time. They do park runs, they do yoga, they do sea swimming. And I'm saying, like, lads, that's really sporty. But like, sport, they felt like sport gave up on them when they were younger because they didn't want to play basketball, which was quite big in my school, or camogie, which was really big in my school, or hockey. Whereas I think now, if we could just find a way to facilitate more for young girls to be able to play, then that would allow them to stay in it. And I would just say to young girls, just try something else. Maybe if you just don't like swimming, try something else. If it's not hockey, try something else. And also the other thing is, if you're a boy who is 16 or 17, there's a good chance that there's 3 teams for you to play on. There's probably an A team, a B team, and a C team. If you're a girl of the same age, there's probably 1 team. And if you can't get onto that team, you don't play. And that's a huge problem. So what we also need to do is we need to go to parents of the girls who are playing on the B team or the C team, and we need to say, if you don't help and you don't get involved and you don't coach, then your daughter doesn't have a team to play on. Because what you find with the lads is, like, loads of their parents are involved or whatever. So it's actually trying to say to parents, can you please get involved as well? Because we need to find an outlet for these young girls to play. So they're the 2 things. One is for girls to find a sport that suits them. And the other is to make sure that we have the facilities and the people and the support structures to be able to let them play at whatever level they want to play. Not everybody needs to be elite, but let's find something for everybody.
What would be the most rewarding thing about your job?
Definitely getting to be there. like nothing beats it, really. You know, I go to All Ireland finals, I'm at Six Nations games, I'm at, you know, Olympics, World Cups. And like when you're a kid, you dream about those moments, you know, you love watching them and you just want to be part of it. And now I get to do that. And that to me that's the dream, you know. It isn't the, you know, who sees it or who hears it, or I couldn't care less about any of that. It's just, to me, it's getting there and getting to be there. And I love it. I really love that. Yeah, that's the tough part, Alex, you know, because not everybody is competitive. And sometimes we push kids to making everything about, did you win? Did you win? And actually, really, the first question we should ask is, did you enjoy it? And if you didn't enjoy it, we need to find a way to make you enjoy it. And so I would think when it comes to sport, it's actually kind of like what I was saying there about finding a level. Like if you want to kick a football, it's not about how many goals you score. It's about, did you have fun playing with your friends? So PE is a way of doing that. It's actually about, like, I quite like now, I have a lot of friends who are PE teachers, and a lot of them would say to me, they do a lot more team building exercises now than competitive sport, where they might do a bit more orienteering or, like, you know, puzzle finding, like where there's actually people are working together, but there's a physical aspect in it. And I quite like that because it's showing you teamwork where the end result isn't winning. And to me, I think that's what we need to do when it comes to PE in particular. You need to remove the word win and replace with enjoy. And once everybody's been able to do that, I think that's really where you get a lot of success out of it, because not everybody is built the same.
What courses have you done in college that help you get the qualifications you needed for your career?
To me, the media and communications degree was exactly what I wanted. It fit for what I needed. And I did an English degree because, like I was saying earlier, I was going to be a teacher. That's kind of what I thought I might like to do. I actually do a bit of lecturing in UL now as well, in the sports journalism masters. And it is something that I thought, you know, I could still go back and do a dip to go do an English teaching. And if I get sick of this at some point, or somebody doesn't want me to do it anymore, then that's definitely something that I would consider, because lecturing, I think, is something that I've quite enjoyed as well. So that's all. Like I didn't go back doing any masters or postgrads or anything like that, because to be honest, after I had done my internship in America, that was kind of all the training I needed, really.
I think sports journalism and sports coverage will change in the future, given the increase in the amount of people viewing sports online instead of on radio and television.
Yeah, like this is the biggest change that we're going to have, honestly. Like you see Amazon Prime, Facebook, Google, they're all coming into the market now. And there has never been such competition for sports rights. I'm very lucky at the moment that RTE has a good handle on rights for the next couple of years, but I can see the way things are going, particularly when you see the likes of, like, TikTok are sponsoring the Women's Six Nations this year. It's only a matter of time before they have their own dedicated channel, and it's just behind pay-per-view. Katie Taylor's fights are all on a paywall behind DAZN, and that, like, is literally, like, I've been at press conferences and you see them walking around and all they have is a phone. Like, it's mad, you know, their television channel exists solely through phones. And I think that's probably the way things are going. Like Amazon have a huge holding share in the Premier League now, and I think streaming platforms, even if you saw during the pandemic, when crowds couldn't go to matches, suddenly people were paying a tenner for a stream when they would have paid the same tenner to go into the Gaelic grounds to go in and watch a match. And that actually is changing people's mindsets, because they're willing to pay for things. And I think anytime somebody is willing to pay a tenner for an on-the-spot match or whatever, you're going to see that continue to rise. And to me, streaming is the biggest area of growth. You've seen what Netflix and all that is doing, even just for regularized TV. So sport is definitely the next thing that's going to be impacted, probably in the next 10 years, maybe even less.
Would you like to win in All Ireland or win Player of the Year?
Oh, winning All Ireland.
Take responsibility for losing or not get the credit for winning?
Probably take responsibility for losing. It's probably harder to do, you know, like I think we've all been there where you've probably won and felt like, you know, your team did something or you did something or whatever. But I think having accountability and taking one on the chin when you lose is probably the most important lesson that anybody can learn.
Do you rather coach or play?
Play, definitely play. Yeah. there's nothing beats playing, but coaching is a nice alternate when you can't play anymore, but definitely play would be number one.
Would you rather take your own point or pass it off to get a goal?
I liked scoring as well now, I have to say, but if you get a good pass, there's a lot of credit in that too, but probably, yeah, the glory is probably, yeah, score yourself, I'd say, yeah.
Would you prefer to play in the winter or the summer?
Summer, oh my God, Jesus, I hated playing in the winter. Pre-seasons in the winter were horrific as well. Summer all day long.
Is it training in the morning or the evening you prefer?
Morning. I can't train in the evening. I'm too tired, too cranky by the time it gets there. I have to train in the morning.
Would you rather play but lose the game and win and be in the sub bench?
Probably play and lose. Yeah, I think sitting there and feeling like you're not contributing is very difficult. Nobody wants to sit on the bench. I think being involved is what you want. Well, certainly for me, being a competitor, I want to play.
Would you rather play with your best friend or beat your rival?
Play with my best friend, I think, yeah. There's sporting friendships are the best ones. And some of my best friends I still have from when I played camogie with them when we were kids. And to me, that is what sport is all about. It's making friends, yes, beating rivals, but having the crack with your best mates there's nothing beats that.
Would you rather play in a position where you're good at or play in a position where you can get the ball and show off?
Play where you feel comfortable, because that will make you play better. Whereas if you're trying to do something that you're not and you're trying to show off, it's not going to work out well for you. So definitely play where you feel comfortable.
Do you prefer living in Ireland or Australia?
Ireland, actually, now. Probably if you'd asked me when I was a kid, I probably would have loved to have gone back to Australia for the weather. But I think now, since we've settled, I love the culture and the lifestyle in Ireland. And I've traveled all over the world, and I don't think anywhere beats it, really, to be honest. I think it's the people. Just Irish people are sound.
And the last question, do you prefer playing basketball for Ireland or camogie for Cork?
Basketball is probably an all-round sport that really challenges you more than anything else I've ever played. So probably getting to that level and being able to play that was great. But camogie, because it's Irish, I think as well, because it's our native sport and I took it up so late, getting to make it that far was a huge achievement. So I'd probably slightly say basketball, but only just.
What's your preferred jersey number?
5.
What was your favorite sport to present?
Rugby.
What was the best interview you've been a part of?
Roy Keane losing the rag on the radio was just dynamite.
Who outside of sport would you look up to?
Mary McAleese. Loved her.
What's the best quote you've ever heard?
Be brave enough to be brilliant. I always love that, because it is what it is. Just you got to go for it. You have to be brave, and it's something that I live by.
What book inspires you?
I just finished Billie Jean King's book, which is unbelievable. Loved that. The Long Walk to Freedom as well, I think was just a really outstanding book. Yeah, probably that book as well meant a lot. But yeah, probably one of those two, I would say.
Which do you prefer? Up for the match or know the score?
Probably know the score. I'd love for them to bring it back. Loved that show. So much crack. Would love for them to bring it back.
Who do you think is the best team in Ireland across any sport?
Limerick Hurlers are pretty good now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Maybe them, yeah.
If you still play sports, what sports do you play?
Just basketball now. And I do a bit of CrossFit in the gym, but basketball still playing.
And the last quick fire question is, what's a typical day like in RT?
Long days. Usually bit of news, bit of radio, bit of everything, lots of variety, and most of all, a bit of fun, really. That's, it is good fun. It probably doesn't always come across that way, but it genuinely is.
A few more questions that have come across from students in the school. If you could play any sport in the world that you haven't played before, what would it be?
Ice hockey, class sport. I'd probably poleaxe myself, but I love it.
What would be kind of your favorite song to hype you up, getting ready for like a match or a training session?
I like Macklemore. I'd throw a bit of that on, maybe, yeah.
This one comes from a few of the teachers in the school. Who'd be your favorite sister-in-law?
Jesus, now listen, she'd be lucky now. She's playing this well. Jamie McMahon, you're a fabulous woman.
Now, going back on one of the things about the interview, what were you talking to Usain Bolt about?
I was just asking, it was just after the race. You only get 30 seconds with him, so you literally just get to say, how was that for you? You're the world champion again. And his manager was Irish, so I asked him if he had any Irish, and he did. He was able to say Dias Muragwit, which actually clearly his manager's from Donegal, so he got a bit of that. So to be honest, we're always looking for Irish angles in those things. So that's all I was looking for from him, was a bit of
This
crack.
is another one from the teachers now. When was the last time you were in Copperface Jacks?
Oh, just before the lockdown. I was only dying to go there again, and then the place got locked down. So I think it was about February 2020. But I tell you, I'll be going straight back at it now that life is alive again and we can get back out. I am ready for road. I still have the gold card and it'll be ready for use.
Are you able to do an Australian accent?
G'day, mate. That's about as good as it gets now.
So thank you anyways for coming and letting us interview you. Now, just one last thing. Would you like to ever come and visit the school if you were given the chance?
I would love to. And genuinely, like, listen, I think life is starting to open up and getting a bit better now. So let's try and make that happen. I will definitely try to get down at some point and call in and say hi.
So thanks anyways. And now we have everyone here just to say thanks for coming.
Thanks a million, guys. Hopefully see you in the flesh at some stage. We'll try to get down.